Hi, welcome to After Six Career Conversations brought to you by The Memo. My name is Minda Hartz and I'm the founder here, and my co-pilot, co-founder, Lauren. Lauren, you want to say anything tonight?
Hi, everyone. Welcome. As Minda said, my name's Lauren, and I am the co-founder of The Memo. We are about to embark on a really good conversation. I am so excited that we have these amazing women here. And please ask questions along the way. I know some people have sent in some questions ahead of time, so we'll get to those. But if this is your first time using the GoToWebinar platform, there is a questions or chat feature. So please type in your questions. We will answer them. We'll get to them. We want to make sure that you're getting what you need out of this evening as well. But we're going to have a lot of fun.
Yes. So you're in the right place. After Six Career Conversations, we like to get down in the weeds and talk about the stuff that you typically wouldn't talk about before six when it comes to your career. And I wish I had Sierra like queued up that level up, level up, level up. That song just gets me so fired up. And there's like one line in that, or a couple of lines rather, but less talking, more action. And then another one, I just keep elevating, no losses, just upgrading. And I think we definitely have to, you can tweet about it or you can be about it, and it's really up to you. And we can level up in various ways. And it's not just it doesn't have to be a cliche. It can be really using that to your advantage and positioning yourself where you want to be in the new year. So I'm excited about it. As Lauren said, if you need anything, use the chat box, use the questions feature. If you're listening in with us, welcome. We'll try to keep you as engaged too for those who can't see us live, and for those who watch after the fact. You should have been here, but we're still going to gift you with the presents of it.
Shade, Minda. That was shade.
A little shade, just a little bit. And so, ready to get into it. We have two fabulous, phenomenal women here with us tonight, and I want them to introduce themselves, and then we'll get right into it. So, Sarah, would you do the pleasures of introducing yourself, and then Candia, we'll have you, and then we'll get this party started.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sarah Morgan. I am a 20-year human resources professional based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. I also run a successful blog called The Buzz on HR for the past 7 years. I've been writing there, which has led to speaking and consulting and traveling and all kinds of great, opportunities for me. When I am not doing all of that, I am a wife and a mother of 5. So there's definitely never a dull moment in my life or in my house. That's why I have these headphones on so that y'all can't hear my running children in the background. So
fair.
So it's on me?
Yes.
Hey, everyone. My name is Candia Johnson. I am the founder of Candid Conversations, a communications and training development company. And so I teach people how to gain the clarity and confidence they need to gain more exposure and visibility within their career. So my clients are typically looking for media attention, speaking engagements, and they're looking to position themselves for advanced leadership roles within their respective companies. I also write a series of different leadership development articles on confidence and gaining more exposure and visibility and public relations type things. And I was notified this week that I've published close to 1,000 articles on those topics and print and online publications. So, hey, y'all, I'm ready to get it started.
Well, you both have leveled up in your career. So I knew that when Lauren and I were talking about, who are we going to get? I'm like, I already know. Let me reach out to these ladies because I admire the work and the way that you show up as women of color. And it's all about us sharing the tools and the resources so that we all can level up. It's no good if just one of us is leveling up. We all have to rise to the top. And so, Candia, I'll start with you. What does it mean to level up?
So for me, leveling up, it's 2 parts. It's one, defining success on your own terms. What does that look like for you? What does it feel like? for me, even after I got the degree, I got the car, I got the advanced degree, I still did not feel successful. And so I had to take a step back and figure out, what does success look like for me and what does it feel like? And then the second part of leveling up is making sure that your actions align with your intentions for your life. This is what I want for my life. Now, are my actions aligning with that every single day? But the very first thing is really just kind of figuring out what success looks like and what does it feel like for you.
Amen. Sarah, what's it mean for you?
Amen. I love that definition. I would add that it's about the next progression in your overall journey. That leveling up is not a one-time thing. It's something that's going to happen to you several times during the course of the journey towards whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And it's important to keep that in mind, that what things look like today, what today's level up is, the version of you that's necessary for this season isn't going to be the person that's necessary for the next season, that you're going to have several level ups during the course of there. But I agree very much with Candia's definition. I think that's spot on. Is defining success for yourself and then moving progressively through all of that.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome. I think that's important, to define it, because what does it mean to level up to you? Sierra can tell you what it means to her, but do you know what it means to you? And then on top of that is leveling up. You will be required to do that several times in your career. And so we'll talk later about what are some tangible ways that people can level up. But are there some areas, Sarah, that you found that you wish you would have leveled up in earlier in your career that you waited on?
I would have to say, hands down, networking. I was a horrible networker. I'm much better at it now. I'm really naturally laid back and introverted, which is generally hard for people to believe because I'm a blogger and I speak and stuff like that. But that exhausts me. Like when all of that, like I'm gonna have some ice cream and lay it down when this is over. But I saw networking as something that was like fake and false. Like it was you doing something or trying to get to know somebody in order to get something out of them that wasn't based in anything authentic. And I had to realize that that wasn't true, that it was really about building professional friendships and serving each other within that. How can I help you? How can you help me? And when I went at it from that perspective and just said, okay, let me try to meet someone new and connect with this person and figure out what we can do to help each other. When I approached it from that perspective, everything changed. And then it just became about connecting with people and building professional friendships, and not about some kind of fake glad handing, collecting business cards kind of thing that I thought it was about. But if I had learned that 10 years earlier, I feel like I would be so much further along than where I am right now.
Yeah, that's really good. So what you're saying is people can start today, right? They don't have to wait to.
Yes, I think there's opportunity for you to network everywhere you go. You never know who it is that you're interacting with. We had a cookout at my house over the summer. My cousin, who is an app developer, is playing spades with a friend of mine who happens to work for the government. He was able to solidify a pitch that landed him a client. If he wasn't in networking mode, looking to connect with a person and just talk about what do you do, what do I do, that's an opportunity that would have been missed. If he just would have looked at him and said, this dude, we just gonna drink this drink and play this game and I'm not worried about him. That entire exchange, an opportunity would have been missed. And I think about how many times I've gone to events and just stood in a corner, not really talked to anybody, not really tried to connect, or I got business cards and then didn't follow up with the people. And those are tons of missed opportunities that could have put me in positions to advance my career farther and faster. So I would definitely encourage everyone to hone in on your networking skills, focus on connection and making professional friendships that might not pay off today, but later on down the line can do really amazing things for what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Candia, what about you? Are there some things that you wish you would have done a little sooner?
Relationship building also. I would like to add to that because one of the things for me, I spent so much time trying to be accepted within the company that outside the company, I had zero, zilch, no network, right? Because I was just so busy trying to build my credibility and my authority, within the company that I didn't take the time to build those outside relationships. And so it did start off very uncomfortable for me, particularly when it came time for me to launch my own business. Of course, I needed to build those relationships and leverage those relationships and really learn how I can add value and things of that sort. So that's one area that definitely I would recommend. Be very intentional about that. So for me on Friday, so every day of the week I have a theme. I'm like the theme girl. So Friday is follow-up Friday. So I use that time to text people, follow up on emails. I use Boomerang to even schedule emails the following week to connect with people via coffee, virtually connect people. I'm very intentional during that time, and I schedule kind of like those follow-ups. So if someone emails me during the week, I push that response out for Friday morning. And so there is about at least 2 hours on a Friday that is designated simply for following up, making sure my people are okay, following up on my mentees and things of that sort. So now I'm very intentional about it, but I really do wish, I don't really have regrets, but that's one area that I should have been doing in college, really, before I even got to the worker world.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad that you both talked about networking because there is a power in your network. I had the opportunity to speak to some young women last year, and the group of them, it was a professional collegiate organization for Black women, but I reminded them that even though you are at a predominantly white institution and you have these networks, make sure you're networking with the frat boys, make sure you're networking with some of this old money at this Ivy League. Like, don't leave here without connections all across the board. And that is something that I echo what you guys say about the network.
Yeah, one of the things that I always tell people is relationships will take you places that money can't. You have to understand that. So often, especially when you're working with, if you have a desire to get promoted within the firm, you need advocates, you need champions. It's the same thing for my entrepreneurs, or it's the same thing for anyone who has kind of a client-facing business such as myself. I rely on relationship building and word of mouth is the main source of revenue for me. It's really leveraging those relationships. And one point that you pointed on that was I also want to stress is cross-functional relationships. So just because you work in communications or HR, it doesn't mean you shouldn't have relationships or go to events or try to connect with people who work in technology, right? So your network should be diverse. I have people in finance, film, and fashion who I call my mentors. They're outside of the communications industry. So, and again, for me, when I'm involved in networking and building relationships, I'm not only building those relationships for myself, I'm thinking about my people too, because I love to connect people. Becoming really the connect is a great way to level up per se. When you are the connect, when people say, Candia knows someone who knows someone who knows someone, that's your opportunity to take your career to that next level as well.
Yep.
Yes, really definitely.
I don't know if any of you've read the book, The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, and he talks about, having those connectors, having people in your network that get you, they may not be able to necessarily fund your business or whatever, but they know who can, and you need to have those people in there. And so that leads into the next question in terms of what mistakes have you both seen people make when missing their opportunity? Yeah, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say not specifically asking for what you want is the biggest. I think women, in particular, women of color and Black women, we are taught to wait for someone to recognize our potential, to wait for someone to give us the opportunity. And then you end up spending years in an organization sitting around waiting for someone to recognize the work that you're doing and give you a shot. When if you would ask for it, you would have, much more success much more quickly, because that's what your mediocre white counterparts are doing. I promise you. We look at it and we think it's brown nosing. We look at it and we see, so and so is sucking up. We need to be paying attention to what so and so is doing, and finding ways without compromising our integrity and compromising our authenticity to do those same things, because that's what's going to put you in the position for those prime spots. Ask for mentors, ask for projects, ask to be included, invite yourself to meetings, say, hey, this is an area I'm interested in. I want to learn more about this, because would you mind if I sit in? I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to sit there and take notes. Those are the opportunities that you need. And I would say the second thing is not paying attention to your own development. Your job, the company you work for, is not responsible to develop you. It's not their job. Your career is your job. Your learning, your ongoing development, that's your problem. So if your job doesn't have a budget for training, if your job doesn't have money to send you to conferences, figure out a way to do it for yourself. Don't allow yourself to just sit there waiting for someone to create an opportunity, for someone to teach you the thing. You can go on YouTube. Events like this, which are completely free, are available to you. You have to seek that out. You have to be intentional. You have to be focused on what it is that you want. So I say not asking for what you want, and not being deliberate about your own development are the two areas that I think people make mistakes, and it ends up hindering them.
That's good. Candia?
So, Sarah, you made some really, really good points. And I guess I just really probably want to build on what you're saying, and that, your talent and skills will never be enough for you to get to that next level. And so the mistake that I often see for us is, we're probably sold a dream that school is the end all and be all to getting a seat at the table. So I often hear people say, I have a master's degree, I have 20 years of experience. That may get you to the door, but it's not enough to get you to that next level. And so there are things like the relationship building that's key, speaking up for yourself, learning how to sell yourself. If you get that seat at the table, a lot of the people say, oh, I want a seat at the table. Yeah, but you can't even speak up for yourself when you get there. So we can give you that. But if you don't understand how to talk about the value that you deliver in an organization, if you don't know how to manage your emotions, that's another thing. I have to say that your ability to handle conflict, change, and chaos will determine how far you will go in your career. So oftentimes we think when we get that certain level of skills and we get that advanced degree and advanced requirements that we don't need anymore. And you actually need more of those sort of soft skill types of things to get you to that next level. A lot of what Sarah mentioned, the relationship building, the speaking up for yourself, things of that sort, and investing in yourself should be a thing that's done several times a year outside of the work environment. So for me, it's just, seeing people who are relying totally on their talent and their skills, and waiting for someone to see that they're a hard worker and thinking that hard work is going to get you through the door. That alone will not.
Yeah.
And I wish that I had like a church bell or something, because you guys were like hitting those dropping those
Need a
gems.
tambourine.
Something, those little like, things, that symbols. But yeah, no, I was just thinking about everything that you said. I hope you guys are like taking notes, thinking about how you're going to level up, how you're going to invest in yourself. I mean, you're here with us tonight, so you care about your professional development. So kudos to you. But it's so important that we are the curator of our career. And I think as Black women, we were kind of sold the dream that if you get a degree, then that's all you need, right? And then you can, sky is the limit. And then they keep telling us, oh, but work harder, but work harder, but work harder. I mean, we would have calluses on our hands if we worked any harder. So I think that it's important for us to figure out what are those other ways, like you said, our counterparts are doing, taking a page out of their book too, and perfecting it so that we do get our seat at the table, and then we do something with that seat once we get there. So I'm so glad you guys both touched on that. The other thing I think it lends itself to talk about is, so let's say that you are in the workplace and you have kind of messed up on how you leveled up at work, and now everyone perceives you as X and Y and Z. How do you reset the conversation and the narrative around who you are at work when you have not leveled up like you should have?
So I'll share some constructive feedback that I received. I know the exact year. It was 2010. It was 2 years before I left. So
Let me sit up. This is about to be good.
So my manager explained to me that I lacked empathy and that people felt like I was not approachable. And so for me, yes, girl, me, I see that's how I was. Like, me? What? Right? But you know what? In all fairness, she was abso-freaking-lutely right. She was abso-freaking-lutely right. My response to things, because of what I was told as a child, was I'm a good worker. People don't have to like me. That just was my attitude. I'm a good worker. You're not talking about my work, but you're talking about the fact that, I don't smile or something like that. I don't know. Like, I'm just giving an example, right? But the reality is, she knew that I had a desire to get to that next level. And she also knew that, people buy into people. So when you are looking to position yourself, or even if you go to a job interview and you have two candidates who have the exact same qualifications, the determining factor is people are saying, it's something about that woman that I liked. I loved her energy. I love this. The determining factor is always your energy and then your experience. And so once you get that feedback, take responsibility to ask for specific ways that you could improve. And so one of the ways, my manager at the time gave me several ways. And first of all, speak to people before they speak to you. A simple hello, good morning, that sort of thing, to level set the room and bring people to your energy level was number one. 2, ask people open-ended questions about themselves, about their thoughts, about the project, about their perspectives, and be open to it. I'm kind of like a type A personality, and I had to understand that people communicate in different ways. It doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make it right, but I have to be respectful and allow them an opportunity to speak, in a way, and to share their perspectives. And so although that constructive criticism, it didn't feel good, when I look at where I am now, I absolutely needed it to get to that next level and work with clients on my own. I needed to develop empathy in business, and I needed to learn how to listen and understand that people communicate differently. And, it would just be a lifelong commitment, but I'm like much, much better right now. But make sure you ask for specific feedback. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but make sure you ask for specific feedback. Don't let people give you vague advice, like you need to be proactive, right? Or you need to be more polished. you have to learn how to ask for clarity and say, could you give me an example of what that looks like for you? Because everyone has a different version of success. So you need someone to paint the picture for you on what that improved behavior looks like and when you should use that improved behavior in the workplace. So challenge people when they're giving you vague, fluffy advice so that you could visualize yourself making the improvement.
Wow,
I
that's really
love
great.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because that's so good. Amen.
I would add to that that you also have to own your prior behavior. Like you got that feedback, you took that in, you decided that you were going to make adjustments. But if you had just shown up to the coworker in the cubicle next to you as a completely different person, then that person is kind of looking at you like, who just showed up in front of me? You have to own what behaviors it is that you're trying to change. You have to say to the people on your team, hey, I'm working on this. I recognize that this isn't a skill that I was super sharp at before. So I'm going to be working on this now. If you did something specific to them at some point in time that you need to apologize for, go ahead on and handle that. Because if you just show up, new day, new me, and think that people are automatically going to accept that about you without you taking any ownership and accountability for the negative behaviors in you that may have existed before, you're going to be met with a lot of resistance. People aren't going to think that you're being sincere and authentic in your approach, and that's going to hurt you building that confidence in this new self that you found. So take the feedback, absolutely. Ask for the feedback. And whether it's if your boss is not good at giving you that kind of feedback, find you a mentor, get you a coach, like find somebody who's going to tell you about yourself in a professional sense, because your friends do it, your family does it, that's great. But if leveling up in your career is a focus, you got to have somebody around you that's going to tell you about your professional self and the things that you need to do. But
Yes.
if you have not handled yourself appropriately in the past, you got to own that. You got to go to your coworkers, make amends, make things right, and ask them to give you the space to make these corrections and make these adjustments and rock with you. What's great about my team that I work with every day is that if I'm honing in on a new skill, I tell my direct reports, I'm working on this. Like I know that I've been kind of falling down in this particular area. I'm working on this and I need you guys to hold me accountable. Feel free to call me out. Like I create that safe space for them to be able to give me that rugged feedback when I need it, because it's got to come from multiple levels, not just top down, but also laterally. And sometimes from the bottom up is really important so that you're managing your reputation by managing people's perceptions of you. That I think all of that is really important.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Let's dig a little bit deeper into the authenticity factor in leveling up, because I think there's a lot of conversation around Black and brown women being their authentic selves, right? And how do we level up in that way? And my authentic self may be different from the two of you, and vice versa. And so, what are your thoughts around how authenticity plays into leveling up, or does it?
It absolutely does, because if you're not being your sincere self, whoever that is at this particular level, then people are going to recognize that. And karma, the universe, like whatever you want to call it, is it's going to find you. It's going to find you out. It's going to expose you, and you're going to be in a predicament that you don't want to be in. So yeah, I absolutely think that's important. That's different than, fake it till you make it. Because I do think that in some situations, it's you get thrust into opportunity, you have to level up before you're fully ready. And you have to rise into that opportunity because it's not going to knock again. You know that thing is not going to come around. So you're going to have to figure it out in the moment. and you're going to make some mistakes along the way. You're going to have to ask for some forgiveness and eat some humble pie, but don't give up on yourself, in the process, and deny yourself opportunities because you feel like you're not ready. But be authentic in saying, this is a little bit, this is, I got a little pee running down my leg right now. This thing right here is scary. It's okay to be afraid of it,
Right.
but don't run from it. Run to it, because that's the only way that you're going to get better. But authenticity is everything, and you got to do that self work to know who you are, where you're going, being intentional about how you want to show up in the world and how you want people to receive you before you get to that space.
Hmm. That's
Right.
good.
Yeah, and I would also add that, for me, so much of leveling up, definitely authenticity is a huge part of it, but so much of leveling up has to do with how people connect with you. And so authenticity, to help them form that connection with you, right, is so incredibly important. And so if you're following the whole fake it till you make it, a lot of the times, listen, that may work at times, but you're not going to be able to keep it up. So to
Right.
Sarah's point, it could be a blow or a damage to your credibility. So again, for me, it's like people buy into people, buying, investing, even when you're investing in a person and you're putting your name on the line, right, to vouch for a person, that means someone is investing in you because of your authenticity. So that's really important in terms of helping people discover more of who you are and determining their decisions, about whether or not they're going to invest in you for a new project, business, or what have you. So it's absolutely, important. And I would say, in addition to authenticity, just vulnerability too, and asking for help and saying, this is where I'm trying to grow. However, I'm struggling in these key areas. Can you help me? Right. Even now, I say that a lot. I ask for help in terms of figuring things out, and it has really, really served me well, and people understanding that sometimes I need help.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I'm glad that you guys touched on that, because I think we just keep throwing that word authenticity, authenticity out there, and we also keep pushing the narrative of fake it till you make it. And I think that that is a hindrance, like you both said. So it's all about thriving in work instead of surviving. And I think that whole narrative around fake it till you make it, only it's not a way for us to thrive. And again, don't feel like you have to be somebody else at work.
Right.
I hear a lot of young women who will come to our career boot camp say, "Oh, I want to be Bose," when I get. But if Bose, if she can show up in all her authenticity, it may not work well for you.
Right.
You have to figure out what it is that works for you. But that it may be a similar way. But if there's no cookie cutter way, authenticity is your own unique DNA to you.
And oftentimes, especially particularly with women, when I work with women who are struggling with the lack of confidence, it's because they're trying to mimic someone else's abilities or someone else's vision for their life. And so a lot of the times, and I know that that was particularly true for me, a lot of the times I struggled because I was trying to do the fake it till you make it type thing. It wasn't authentic to who Candia was and my strength areas and things of that sort. So a lot of the times, if you dig deeper into the fake it till you make it, it's like, okay, so you have to have a model to follow, first of all. So whose model are you following? Like, we don't even know if that's a legit model. So let's start there. But second of all, sooner or later, a lot of the times we find out that you're following a model that's not even true to who you are and the value that you could bring into the world. So it's absolutely key that you get a handle on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to remind everybody to make sure that you use the question functions. Pretty soon we're going to open up for Q&A, and we want to make sure that you get your questions answered. Don't get off this line before 9 without putting your question in, and that's part of leveling up. If you have a question, ask it, advocate for yourself. You spent the time and energy to come here tonight, so make sure that you put that in there. I want to ask you both, what are some resources that you use or books to help you level up? Maybe you could talk about what that looks like for you, leveling up.
So today I gave a workshop on emotional intelligence. So that's probably top of mind for me. And the emotional intelligence is an ability to manage your emotions as well as be respectful and understand the emotions and perspectives of others. So one book I would recommend is Emotional Intelligence 2.0, because in terms of handling constructive feedback, asking the right questions, and figuring out the actions that you can take every single day within the work environment, that book provides really a good, actionable breakdown on things that you can do. So things that you can do as well as things that you can say. Another book that was really transformative for me is, two more, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and also The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F-U-C-K, okay? So I'm going to keep it PG, but The Subtle Art of Not Giving a you-know-what. All three of those books really hold a special place in my heart. I've probably read each of them at least twice.
I love emotional intelligence. That's a good one. If anybody's been on our career boot camps or on these, you know that I'm always trying to push that. You would think I'd get royalties from that emotional intelligence book. I'm always trying to push it.
Right. I mean,
tell him to cut your check.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. One of the things that I was talking about today was that, if you look at, again, what it takes for people to get to that next level, it's, the whole emotional thing, how well you communicate, how well you connect with people, how you can influence people to take action. That's what matters when you're trying to get to, that's what people are measuring your competence by, those kind of indicators that fall under emotional intelligence. It's not so much your skill set or your IQ or whether or not, you're a good writer or a good reporter. When it comes to leadership and leading people, it's all about, your charisma, your, handling your emotions, being able to not, be a hothead and kind of run off. Those sorts of things matter.
Yeah, I would add in terms of books, The Effective Manager. That's one of my favorites. It really gives such practical tips about how to organize your team and handle one-on-one communications in a way that's very methodical and very consistent, which is really, really important when you're trying to build teamwork and establish yourself as an effective manager. So that's a big one. No Ego by Cy Wakeman is another one that I love. Really just talking about how to get people out of the narratives that they tell themselves and move them from story into reality and then ultimately action. And then switching from books, I'm big on podcasts. I listen to a lot. I've got like a 40-minute commute to work to and from, so it's easy for me to get in a few podcasts. Obviously, I wouldn't, I love Minda. I got to shout her podcast out. Secure the Seat is dope. And if you're not listening to it, you're missing out. I would also add Brooke Castillo's The Life Coach School. A lot of really good practical tips about managing your thought life, because that's really, really important. Understanding your thoughts drive your feelings and not the other way around, and how you can cultivate your mind to think the ways that you want it to think and create the life that you want to have. That type of work is really, really important. I love The Productive Woman, Laura McClellan. I've gotten so many tips about just how to organize my time, organize my spaces, prioritize things from that. If you are a person who is looking to get into business for yourself, Side Hustle Pro with Nicaila Matthews Akome is essential. And I would add Happy Black Woman with Rosetta Thurman is another one of those that is essential if you are a person who is looking to get into business for yourself, because those women week after week are putting out episodes and giving you free gems on gems on gems of things that you can learn to take yourself from having a project to a profitable business that can sustain you, beyond corporate America. So those would be the other items that I would add.
All of that is good. And the book that you mentioned, say it one more time for the people in the back, because a mentor gave that book to me, and it's been
No
very, very
Ego
helpful.
or No Ego by
The
Cy
leadership
Wakeman
one.
and The Effective Manager
Yes,
by Mark Gorst. With both of those are really, really good books.
definitely. Leveling up that's part of it. It's being in the know, knowing what the trends are. It's hard to say you want a seat at the table, even though we know some mediocre counterparts don't know the trends and aren't in those spaces. But when we get there, we want to be ready to rock and roll and take control. And you have to do that by knowing, IBM, they used to invest for 70 years, they invested in their human capital. And when their skills would get a little older, they would pay to get them to like level up in their career. And then a few years ago, I guess over the last 5 years, they've fired or laid off 20,000 employees that were over 40. They no longer were investing in their success. And so some of that would say, yes, IBM should have been doing that. But on the other hand, I wonder what some of those over 40-year-olds, and that's not old, okay,
No.
over 40 were able to do to invest in themselves. So maybe some of them were investing. So when that happened, they were ready to go somewhere else. But for the ones that didn't, that just kind of stayed there and were hoping for the best and didn't level up, some of those opportunities might have been missed. And so I just want to encourage you, not to scare you, but to let you know that take it into your own hands, like Sarah said. Yes. Last thing, do you guys hear that feedback?
Yes.
I'm getting your echo.
How is that? Is that any better?
That's fine, I believe. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I don't know what happened. But I wanted to let you know, before we jump into Q&A, I want to say shout out to Sherry Sims. Hey, Sherry, over at Black Career Women's Network. Thanks for joining us tonight. If you want another way to level up, make sure you check out Sherry Sims, friend of the memo, and we rock together because there's room for all of us to get to where we need to go. So make sure that you put your questions in the chat box so that we can get to those. But before we get to questions, Candia and Sarah, what are the last thoughts you want to leave with the women that have showed up or men that may be tuning in tonight on leveling up? What's the final thought before we jump in?
So one of the things that I wanted to touch on, so thank you for giving me a last opportunity to make a comment, was I try to encourage people. A lot of the times, particularly for women, we struggle with making mistakes. We struggle with failure. We struggle with getting constructive feedback. And here's what I want you to understand. At every level of your success, you're going to need fuel to get you to that next level. Feedback, rejection, failure, mistakes, that is all included in the fuel that you need to get to that next level. We are all on this journey to becoming a better version of ourselves. It doesn't stop. It's a continuous process. And so you have to understand that you cannot get to that next level unless you have that fuel from other people, that constructive feedback, that ability to help you be better, to help you understand how you are perceived, how you can improve upon your communication skills, things of that sort. All of that is part of the process to leveling up. It sounds sexy, it sounds great, but a lot of it is quite painful. The level up is painful, and sometimes it can be hurtful because you think that you are perceived in one way, and then you have this conversation with a mentor or manager, and they kind of shift your thinking and perspectives about the way ahead. So I just want to, really stress the fact that part of your level up, sometimes it's not going to feel good. And a huge part of that is being open to feedback, constructive criticism, and understanding that failure is your feedback for the come up. And that is it.
That was good. Yes.
I love that. Failure is the feedback for the come up. Somebody better tweet that and put it on a t-shirt. Okay.
Yeah.
I would add to that.
Painful. It can
I would
be
add to that. Yeah, I would add to that making space for self-care is so very important as you're leveling up, because to Candia's point, there's going to be a lot of tough feedback. There are going to be tons of moments where you feel like you don't know what the hell you're doing. You're going to feel like you're doing it wrong. You're going to feel like you're in the wrong place. We didn't go into imposter syndrome, but we all know it's real and we all suffer from it. If you don't have a strong foundation in your mental state, a strong foundation of ways that you take care of yourself and disengage from the hustle, um, it will burn you out really, really quickly. So it's important to remember as you are pushing forward to your next level to take care of yourself, because none of it matters if you ball cuckoo and crazy at the end of it and completely, burnt out and broke down because you pushed yourself way too hard. Team no sleep is a joke. Take a nap, get some rest. Those things are hydrate, moisturize. Those things are important, and we can't forget about that. So I think I agree so much with Candia. I've been dealing with that almost all year because this has been an extraordinary year of success for me and things that just came at me that I didn't expect. But in the midst of that will punch you in the gut and in your face, and you have to be and if you don't have ways of taking care of yourself and disconnecting and just being and making sure that your mental stays strong, it will break you all the way down. So you've got to make sure that you take care of yourself as you're leveling up and as you're moving through your journey. It's as essential as any other thing you do.
I hope you guys, for the people who are watching right now, I know I'm not on Twitter at the moment, but I know you have to have tweeted both of them because those were two gems that just make the church say amen again and again. Because in order to level up, it can be painful. Like yes, in Sierra's level up video, she's dancing, she's having a good time, but you might dance at the end of the level up, but to get there, sometimes it is the struggle. But and also you have to be mentally prepared to when you get to that level up. And I also want to make one last point before we jump into questions is sometimes leveling up is leaving where you are. Like you've taken too much pain, you've taken too much nonsense, and sometimes we just stay and hope that our level up will come, and it's never going to come at that particular place. And so leveling up is getting your resume together, doing some informational interviews, and getting the heck out of the place that you're at. So leveling up isn't always just the promotion necessarily, but it's putting yourself in a good space so that you can enjoy what life has to offer you.
I would agree so wholeheartedly with that. And I will tell you guys a personal story that speaks directly to it. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I was in a position as a HR manager. I've been with the company for 6 years, and I knew based on how the compensation was structured that I was nearing the end of my earnings band. And I go to my boss and I say, hey, I love it here. I love what I'm doing. And I really want to stay with the company. But the way my bank account is set up, I got to be able to earn more money. And he basically was like, nope, there's not going to be anything that we can do for you. And I gave it a few more months. I waited until my review came around. There was no coinage to be found. And I dusted off your old resume and I started looking, and I was gone 6 weeks later. I went to another job. I stayed there for about a year and a half and then landed the position that I'm in today after that. In that 4 year span of making those changes, I'm earning 2.5 times more than what I was when I left that first position. If I had stayed because I liked it, because I was comfortable, and I had let myself, talk myself into this idea that if I just show my worth, they're going to compensate me fairly. If I just show my worth, they're going to come around and give me what it is that I'm worth, I would not be where I am today in my day job or in what I do after hours. So at that moment, I said, no, I have to make this decision for myself. And sometimes I agree wholeheartedly with Minda. You got to let your exit be the message. Drop the mic, roll out, do what you got to do.
Throw up the deuces and roll out. You just have to. Want to get to a couple of these questions before we end the night. I love the conversation, and leveling up doesn't stop tonight. It's a continued conversation. And before we exit for the night, I'll make sure that both of our panelists will give you their information so that you can connect with them online. But one of the questions we have is, I was told that I need to learn to be more assertive. What are some tips for being more assertive at work?
So without any kind of context, I'm going to say this. A huge part of preparing to be, or striving to be more assertive, is number one, preparing for that moment. So particularly if you have a meeting where someone is saying they want you to be more assertive in the meeting, it's coming into that meeting, understanding, first of all, the perspective that that person has and kind of what they said, what their sweet spot is, right? So if their sweet spot is safety or reducing safety or something like that, be prepared to ask a series of open-ended questions, not yes or no responses, but open-ended questions about the status of the project and how best you can deliver on something, the challenges that they're having. So one of the key ways to show how to be more assertive in the workplace is to show up, but you have to prepare to show up. You can prepare to show up by doing your homework prior to that meeting and coming to the meeting ready and equipped to answer a series of questions so that people can see that you're curious about helping this person position them for success. But not only that, you also are coming to the table with some perspectives about what's happening in the workplace or even what's happening in the market. What is your perspectives? What are your ideas? And then lastly, being really, really careful with how you ask those questions or how you bring those ideas to the table. Don't use disclaimers like, this may sound like a dumb idea, or I'm no expert, or, oh, I was thinking, I was wondering, be assertive, come out with it. When I worked at XYZ company, we, delivered on this approach, and this sounds very similar to an approach we could use in this work environment. So making sure that you're staying away from kind of like the language and the phrases that we use that diminish or, it shows that we have a lack of credibility and a lack of authority in the field. So you really want to be careful about that. And I have an article and some tips on things that you could say to become more assertive, and I'll pass that on to Minda, and she could share that in the update.
Yes. Awesome. Sarah, did you have anything to add?
I have nothing. Candy had got them all. I was gonna say the thing about, not saying I think and not qualifying your statements. Women have a real tendency to do that. I don't know why we do that, but we do. We have this real tendency to want to qualify what we're saying and kind of cushion it. And staying away from that, passive language is really, really important. But no, Candy had hit all the highlights on that one.
Awesome. The next question that we have is, what tips and strategies do you have for early and mid-career professionals who crave more guidance as they take on more responsibilities?
More guidance. It really goes back to the same thing that Candy had just said, is about research to make sure that you are in your career as prepared as you are. I remember reading an article, I want to say it was Inc., where it's like, don't ask questions that you can Google the answer to. Like, you have to be really smart and intentional about how you utilize the time of the people that you are reporting to, and for lack of a better word, trying to impress in the scenario. You really want to be careful about getting into a situation where you are delegating up, because you're asking so many questions that the person starts to think, I might as well just do this myself. They're not prepared. They don't know what they're doing. So I'm going to take this back from them, because that can really be harmful to you in your career. So I think research and preparedness in your early times, and asking good questions is the most essential thing. And I'll leave the mid-career stuff for Candia because I think it's more special.
So there's two things I could say. So you can't, that's another thing. You can't level up on your own. No one is out, rarely is, no, I'm going to just put it out there. No one is out here leveling up alone. Okay. So despite what you see on the gram or Facebook and people sharing their wins, I'm going to be very, very transparent. Sometimes I feel I struggle with sharing the wins sometimes because there is a whole team, not like they on the payroll, not yet, y'all. We speak it into existence. But no, I say that to say, you know, there are people who mention my name, you know, for a project and, you know, who give me these great ideas. And so I just want to say that no one levels up alone. And so with that being said, I'm very intentional. Again, it goes back to that relationship building process. And number one, if you're working in an environment as a mid-career professional, you need to really try to find a workplace champion, an advocate, someone, you know, you can choose either someone who has, you know, some years in the company that you work within, so they can actually tell you how to navigate certain relationships or certain, you know, cultural nuances for the company, and they can give you some insight on how to really navigate those relationships so you can make it to the C-suite, right? For example. So you really want to, at that point, work on, you know, making stronger relationships at work so these people can become your advocates and they can become your guide at that time. At the same time, though, you know, I really do believe that there's a great benefit to hiring a coach or something of that, you know, an outside coach outside of your organization, because particularly at the mid-year career point, you really need to focus on selling yourself. You need to focus on being able to communicate the value that you bring to the table. You need to focus on your career story. Your career story is the problem, solution, and impact. The problem that you solved and the impact to the organization. Now that impact can be something quantifiable in terms of your, you know, the bottom line or revenue or something like that, or it could just be leading the company through a major change or something like that. It just really depends on the company. So for my mid-career people, I would definitely say make sure you have a champion at work, because when it comes time to get you to that executive level or that manager's level, it's just not, rarely is it ever one person making that decision. At the same time, a coach is always kind of helpful to give you some guidance, an outside coach on how to navigate that.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I know that there were a lot of questions in the queue, but I think that some of the answers that both of you gave addresses some of those. And what I'll do for some of the ones that maybe we didn't get to, I'll toss them out online and we can create a conversation around those, so that everybody feels like we kind of touched on a little bit of everything. So yeah, it's funny. Questions are coming in at like the last two minutes, but so we appreciate those questions, and I'm going to throw them out. If you're on Twitter or on Facebook, we'll send them via email afterwards, and make sure we get those answers. But thank you both so much for your time joining us for After 6. Where can people connect with you and support you before we get out of here?
So for me, I love to play on the gram and Twitter. My Twitter handle is Candia at Candia Johnson. And then my Instagram handle is at Candy J. So KAND as in dog, IAJ. And then you can also email me directly, hello@candiajohnson.com.
I can be found everywhere at The Buzz on HR. It's my website, it's my Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter, my Snapchat. I try to keep the brand consistent, so I only have to say it one time. So yes,
Okay, perfect.
The
And
Buzz on HR is the way for everyone to reach me.
And what I'll do is I'll make sure that if you go to any of our social media platforms, you will find how to find them. And then also too, all these questions are coming in. I'll make sure that we get some answers to these and shoot you back a message with their emails and all that great stuff. Thank you all so much for coming. You could have been anywhere in the world tonight, and you're here with us. So thank you again, Sarah and Candia. Thank you to you all who took time with us and were after 6 with us. We hope it was a good use of your time. And if you haven't went to the website, myweeklymemo.com, our next career boot camp is emotional intelligence, so you don't want to miss that. It's part of leadership, it's part of leveling up. And so if you need like a little like boost in addition to what's been said tonight, go YouTube Sierra's, because there's no way you can be sad after listening to that level up song, because it makes you want to go and level up something fierce. So have a good night, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Bye, ladies.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.